meeting is now being recorded.
Good afternoon, Derby agents. This is Kevin Shady talking to you from a beautiful Louisville, Kentucky. We've got the NCAA out of the way. The Masters is in full stream. Not sure who's winning yet because I haven't gone online. I forgot that they show it online and just thought that we wouldn't be able to see it until 3 o'clock this afternoon. But anyway, maybe somebody can update me during this call and tell me who's winning. We've got a treat today, a great presenter and a fantastic opportunity, as always, with Greenlight National and LED lights and induction lighting. And Scott Kent's going to join us. And Scott, we're going to kind of do this a little bit differently. We're going to just we've got the presentation deck out there, and we can go over a couple of the slides. But more importantly, guys, what Scott wants you guys to understand and learn today is the opportunities that are out there and how to position the product and what kind of a reception he's been getting already these first 3 months of 2014. And if I understand you right, Scott, you've got already over $1 million sold and in the pipeline, which, guys, if you guys doing the math at 15% commission, I know it's one time and it's not monthly residual, but 15% of $1 million is $150,000 that's already on the table for Scott and his team. So, Scott, do I understand things correctly there?
You do, and actually, company-wide, we've actually done about $2 million in the first quarter. So we're well ahead of what we were projecting, which has been exciting, and which is why I wanted to talk to the Derby agents today.
So what's been doing most of the push lately? Is it just that the marketplace is getting much more receptive to LEDs, or what's been the big change this year, or is it just the trend and how things have been going?
Well, I mean, I think what's happening is last year, to put it in context, last year Greenlight did about $2 million for the year, and we've done that already in the first quarter. So that tells you, what's happening growth-wise, and this is something, I've always said that I've expected the LED market really, if you were to chart it, to really look like a hockey stick, to be pretty flat and run for a while, on a kind of, with some growth, but some relatively slow growth, and, that being the long portion, obviously, of the hockey stick. But there's going to be a time when you're going to get to the end of that hockey stick and you're going to see the growth pop up. And I really believe, based on what's happening with our company and also conversations, I know a number of other people in the LED business, and conversations I'm having with them is they're seeing similar type growth. Not all, but I mean the companies that are well run, have a good product, and have a good sales team out there, like we do, are seeing some really explosive growth. And what I attribute that to is the fact that we as a company have been out there pounding for 2 to 3 years. And I'll be honest, I mean we're earning a living, but we're out there beating the street and huffing it. And really what we're seeing happen is that, we're getting calls back from a year or 2 years ago to say, hey, you know what, I heard about somebody else that did this. They're really enjoying their savings. And so it's one of those things that's starting to catch on, and we're getting some critical mass. I believe we're seeing some critical mass out in the market. So it's really an opportune time that if you've dabbled at all, I know a number of Derby agents, dozens of Derby agents have gone out and done some, limited assessments, gone out and looked at, talked to different customers, and now it's really an excellent time to go back and revisit any of those conversations you had, number one. And number two, even if you haven't had those conversations, now is a great time to start, because really, in effect, what you're doing is standing on the shoulders of a lot of work that's happened. I mean, LEDs are a technological change, and people tend to be afraid of such a thing. It becomes an emotional response as opposed to a rational one. And the reason for that is that it's different. It's new. It's a paradigm shift. And when you have a paradigm shift, so for example, you might have said, I really like my Walkman. I don't know about this iPod. I don't know how this iPod is going to work. It doesn't have a tape. How does it work? And so, we laugh at that now, but 10 years ago, that was a paradigm shift for us. And that same thing is happening right now in lighting. But that takes time. There wasn't immediate adoption of something like an iPod. And if you know, I mean, another story I like to convey is, I don't know if you know, but Microsoft came out basically with an iPad 10 years before Apple. The market wasn't ready for it, and it failed. They closed it down, and they never went forward with it. Now, obviously, we all know and very familiar with the iPad, but that was an example of the same kind of technology. It just was too early. The marketplace wasn't ready for it, and that's really what the challenge has been with LEDs over the last 2 to 3 years. Is that people look at the numbers, which are fabulous, and almost without exception, in terms of the payback being on average about 2 years. You're looking at sometimes up to a 50% return on your money. It's like making an investment and getting 50% on your money for 10 years. That is an incredible investment because obviously, in that scenario, it's paying for itself in 2 years, and you've got 8 years where you're getting paid a 50% return. I'll tell you right now, your customers aren't getting a better return like that on any investment they're making. So that's really, the financial piece really speaks for itself. The piece that you got to think about and why, one of the reasons Greenlight wanted to partner with Derby is I know that the agents that Derby has have really good local relationships. And, not just 10 years, 20. I mean, I talk to guys, 20, 30, 40-year relationships. That's what comes into play here. When you can start to familiarize yourself with the facts around the product, understand the product, you can go in and talk to your customers and say, look, this is a paradigm shift. It's a different thing, but it works. It's going to save you money, and you're doing the right thing for the environment. So, but that relationship is really what you can leverage because they can see the numbers, and they're literally going to go, I don't even know if I believe this. But when it's coming from somebody that they trust, they respect, and that they've known for 20 years, that's the opportunity you have is really to leverage that relationship and to be able to get an opportunity. And I can promise you that every single day that I get up, I mean, this is the best job I've ever had, period. And it's the best job I've ever had is because I do a great thing for my customers. I do a great thing for the environment. And, look, I do a great thing for myself. And, I'm we're starting to really see a lot of revenue and obviously making a fair amount of money. But when I can have a trifecta like that, I go to bed and I feel great and I wake up and I love it. And so, it's all around a really neat, great thing to be able to do that I love. And, I try to bring that passion every day, and I'll certainly bring that passion with you, the agent, to help you, to support you in every way I can. So that's really what I wanted to communicate today. And I'm happy to take questions, or if you have, I go over a little bit about it. If you're unfamiliar with LEDs, unfamiliar how we do things, I can cover that too. But I kind of wanted to leave that open to the group to give me feedback, and we can kind of direct the call today based upon what you want to do.
Sure, and Scott, I've just been, while you've been talking, I've been flipping through the slides that we've done in previous presentations just to kind of refresh everyone's memory on some of the advantages to upgrading and whether it's reducing the maintenance costs and how long they last and all that. And I'll continue to flip through those during our conversation. So let me start off by asking you this. Let me take it in two directions. One, for those agents that have already done some energy efficiency audits in the past, what would you say to them? And then to the new folks that have joined us and want to know more about LED lighting and what's the process, can you kind of explain that to them?
Sure. So if anybody's done an audit, what I would highly recommend is that you go back and revisit it with your customer and just bring it up again. Obviously, you know the relationship, so I'm not going to tell you how to manage that or how to work that, but you know the relationship. But bring it up in whatever way that is, whether that's saying, hey, let's have a formal presentation, sit down and go over it, or that's having a beer, whether that's bringing it up in conversation. Whatever it is, I'd suggest that you revisit that audit that you and that report that you have, or if you've even just done an audit or just thought about it or gotten an okay and haven't moved forward with it. Now is a great time to do that. I'm here. I'll turn it around in 2 business days for you, and I'm happy to get on the phone and present the findings to the customer directly. Typically what we do in that case is you head into their office, get on a speakerphone, you're there in front of them, and then you can kind of initiate the conference call, and I'll just jump in and go through the details of the report. In terms of if you haven't before experienced LEDs or don't know, I mean, basically try to give you a 5-minute primer here on what this opportunity is and what's happening. So LED stands for light-emitting diode. A diode is basically a computer chip. And the technological or paradigm shift that's occurred is that the way we light things, and we have for 100 years or more, is we run electrical current through a filament inside of a light bulb. When you run current through a filament, it lights up, and it produces light. This is not new stuff, right? It's 100 years old. But believe it or not, probably half the lights out there to this day are still using the same technology, sometimes in different shapes and forms, but that same basic technology. And the problem, the shift that LEDs are, is that while it does produce the light you want, there's a byproduct, and that byproduct is heat. And so what it does is it wastes a lot of that energy. Really, about 90% of that energy goes to producing heat, not just light, which is what we want. So really, a light bulb is not just a light bulb. It's a heat light bulb. It's a little heater. And that's great in certain applications, like at a fast food restaurant. But it's not great when you want light and you don't want to pay for heat. And so that's, technologically speaking, what's happened is somebody invented this thing called the LED, the light-emitting diode, and you put energy into this diode, and it's a fancy word, but they call it photon energy. It takes the energy, you put in the electrical current, and it produces photon energy known to you and I as light. It does this on a highly efficient basis. So the flip to the incandescent, it takes 90% of that energy and produces photon energy. It takes 10%, and it's not perfect, so it does produce a little heat. About 10% of it goes to heat. That's so little that you can put your hand on an LED after it's been running for hours. Go try to do that on an incandescent bulb. I think we all know what happens. Okay? So that is a technological shift. You say, why does this work like this? Why is this opportunity out there? That's the technological shift that's occurred. There's one other technology I should mention, and that's called fluorescence. You've seen this technology as well, and there's two main types. The first is tubes. So you've seen in an office, if you guys are sitting in an office right now, you look up, you'll probably see what's called a troffer, and in that troffer you'll have 4-foot fluorescent light tubes. The way that works is basically there's a gas inside those tubes, and they run current into the gas. That gas then lights up, illuminates. So it's a little bit of a variation on the incandescent, a little different technology. And for your information, that technology was invented in about 1930. So on that technology, it's about 80 years old. LEDs are about 50% more efficient than fluorescent. So you're going to save half. Where on the incandescent side, as I mentioned, you save about 90%. So that is the technological shift that's occurred. And LEDs have actually been around commercially for about 3 to 4 years. The problem is that they're expensive. And they were very, very expensive. I mean, when they came out, a light bulb was $80. Hey, that's not going to make sense in the marketplace, obviously. As they started to come down, that same light bulb is now about $15 or $20. So it makes sense financially. When it's still a lot more when basically a regular light bulb is $1. We're asking somebody to pay $15, $16, depending on the bulb, of course. Just giving you an average number. We're asking somebody to pay $15, $16. Still expensive. However, you're going to save, when you save 50% of your energy use, it pays itself, again, on average, at about 2 years. Basically, what we do is very simple. You don't have to become a lighting expert. All you have to do is be able to recognize what a light is and read a label on the bulb, write that down, and then count them. Simple as that. You have to go into a customer and you got to get 3 things. You got to get a count, which is I just mentioned, where you just simply take down a model number off a bulb and say there are 75 of these. Take down a different model, there are 50 of those, so on and so forth. You have to ask your customer for a power bill. You have to ask your customer how many square feet are in their facility. You get me those 3 pieces of information, and I'm going to give you a very professional-looking, fancy report back, and I'll do that in 2 days. Then what we do is we'll get on the phone and present the report. You present it around, not you're going to buy light bulbs, you present it around you're going to make an investment. This is how much your investment's going to cost, and these are the savings that you're going to accrue from your investment, i.e., this is what your investment's going to pay you back. So it's a really simple process where what I ask you guys to do is go into the customer, run this count, gather that information, funnel it back to me, and then I'll support you in presenting. And then if they want to move forward, obviously I'll be there to support the whole thing. If the order is big enough, by the way, they'll certainly come out. But as for reasons you can understand, I can't come out to every order. But I can come out if there's something very large make sense, we really think you have an opportunity, I'll take those on a case-by-case.
And, I can attest, guys, that it is extremely simple to go out and do these audits. I mean, all you're doing is walking around, typically with the facilities manager, and you're counting bulbs with them and counting fixtures and just how many bulbs are in each fixture. And you write it down and you move on to the next area. And then you do the count and you write it down and move on to the next area. And the facility manager is the guy they're going to typically point you to, but you really need to get in touch, with the CFO or the business owner, because they're the ones that are going to understand the cost savings and the true value in terms of what it means to the business overall. Is that correct, Scott?
Absolutely. I mean, so as a first point of contact, a facilities manager is usually the person that's going to facilitate you getting, no pun intended, going to facilitate you getting the audit completed. So that's usually the person you want to speak to first. We don't want to present the report to the facilities manager. I mean, we're happy to include him because obviously we don't want him to leave him out. We want to make him feel part of the process. But we don't want to present it to him alone. What we want to do is present it to the CFO, the CEO, somebody who can make a decision and recognize the financial impact of what we're talking about. So that's really where we go. Now, would I be happy to do a facilities manager first and he approves it? Sure. But just understand that ultimately where we want to go is to a C-level person that can make a decision.
And also from the facility manager's position, guys, is, saving money is, being the good corporate citizen, but that doesn't really impact the way he does his job. But with the way LEDs are set up, it really does impact his job, because once you put these LEDs in, the need for them to replace bulbs again diminishes significantly, if not for the rest of that time, that manager's tenure there, because some of these bulbs, as you saw on the slides, are going to last 10, 15 years, even 20 years, depending upon how often they're on during the course of the day and the week. If they're only on for 5 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., the LEDs last anywhere from 15, 16 years. So you could quickly become your facility manager's best friend, because the last thing that they like to work on is getting out and changing light bulbs.
And that's a very good point, Kevin. Thank you. And let me give you some numbers behind that. So the LEDs we sell are rated. This is how they do it in the industry. The lights are rated for a certain number of hours. And ours are rated for 50,000 hours, 50,000 hours. So if you want to determine how long they last, pretty simple. You just calculate how many hours in a year they're used, and you run the math. So let's say they're used 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. So that's 50 hours a week. And then they're used 50 weeks a year. So 50 times by 50 is 2,500. They use 2,500 hours a year. And then what we simply do is we divide 50,000 by 2,500. You run the math, you're looking at 20 years in that case. So, it's a very simple calculation to make, but you can tell them exactly. And obviously, when you get to 20 years, it's a lifetime. You're not going to, something will probably happen to the building before you're changing those light bulbs again.
Scott, how about, I've popped up a couple of slides as to why green light. Why would somebody want to go with green light, say, opposed to someone that's local? Because that's some of the questions that I've gotten as well, is that, I've got a lighting guy, I've got an electrician guy. What are the advantages to going with green light?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, we're a national company, and I understand what you're saying in terms of, well, why wouldn't I be with somebody locally? The bottom line is we're going to be able to sell the product to you for cheaper than the distributor, whoever your electrical guy is getting it from, because there's an antiquated distribution chain that local companies, local contractors will go through. So there'll be a local distributor they're going to buy from. That distributor is going to probably buy from a manufacturer's rep of some type for the manufacturer of the bulb, who then takes a markup on it. And then obviously it's ultimately coming from the manufacturer, which is in China, because they're all made in China. What we do is we go around all that because we don't have any infrastructure or investment in that distribution channel. We go around all that. We work directly with the manufacturers in China. I have a person on the ground in China that does that for me. Not only do we work with them directly, my local person there will go and check every shipment, physically walk and take a look at every shipment before it leaves the door. Obviously, she speaks English, but she speaks Mandarin, and she works for me. So, we're able to work with We basically also have been vetting these companies over the last 3 years. And so we know which companies are producing quality goods, which companies are timely, which companies are very easy to work with on the warranty side. And so we've vetted all that, and we're able to get pricing that, frankly, will just, allows us to provide them to you guys, support you along the way, and help you manage the whole process. The other piece that we can do is we have a lot of experience from around the country doing these installs. So we've got, I've got 9 people company-wide right now around the country that have done hundreds of different installs, LED installs, all kinds of shapes, sizes, building types, et cetera. So we're going to bring that experience to bear when not only talking to your customer and helping you to close the sale, but once the sale is closed, making sure if something does come up, we're going to be able to handle it, deal with it for you. I've got resources that I can bring to the table to help do that. The last thing is on the installation side. Our business is not that of being an electrical contractor. We're not interested in that business. That being said, it's an important business in that we need to make sure that the bulbs are installed properly in the case where there needs to be some electrical work. So what we do is we have a lot of experience in that area, and so we're happy to work. If you have an electrical contractor locally that you like to use, great. You can partner with him, and we're happy to work with him. If you don't care, we have a national organization that does all the electrical work for Walmart. So they are basically everywhere. And so we coordinate and partner with them. And by the way, we don't mark it up $1. We're not interested. It's part of what we're able to do. We take the price right from this group. This group's a little more pricey, I'll tell you that right now. But they are highly experienced in doing this. We do all of our national installs, we do through that group. So we bring that as well. The second 2 pieces are really critically important. And the first is there are available rebates through your local utility company. We are experts on those rebates, on the rebates. We have a database nationally of every rebate that's out there. And we know how to deal with utility companies and procure the rebates, which I'm not going to tell you it's really hard, but I'm going to tell you that if you don't know what you're doing, number one, your electrical guy may not even know it's out there. Number two, even if they did, if you don't know what you're doing, there's a fair amount of paperwork and process that has to be done. And this is real money. It can be up to 30, 40, 50% of the total deal. This is cash. This is a check written from utility. It's found money sitting out there. These utilities have this money. They're being forced by the government to provide these incentives, and there's nothing they'd rather do than not pay it and let it sit in their bank account. So we know how to get it out, and the other great thing for your customer is literally found money for them. So we're very good at that. And then the last thing is there's a tax deduction that's available. We have a partner that we work with on that front. That's all the gentleman does. The largest in the country. It's a tax firm that focuses on what's called the 179Ds. What that is, it's an allowable deduction that allows you to take 60 cents for every square foot when you upgrade the lighting to a certain threshold. We almost always meet that threshold. What this gentleman does is he walks through, we're talking about a larger corporation, he'll work with their tax department to properly get that deduction. The small company to work with the accountant to explain what the deduction is and provide all the paperwork that's going to be needed to get it. So there are those 2 other points that really necessitate a little bit more sophistication. And again, a lot of times, I'll be honest, the numbers work anyway. The numbers are going to work even without those 2. You may be more like 3 years, but the numbers are still going to be attractive. Bottom line, though, is you can really help your customer, really add value, and that's what we can really do for you because of that national presence. We understand whether you're local in Louisville or somewhere in Kentucky, you're in Indiana, you're in Texas, wherever you are. We do these all over the country, so we can help on all those fronts.
And I can also attest that, from a payback period, we actually had a client whose payback, the analysis came back and it was like 4.1 years or just under, maybe it's 3.9, something like that. And we were a little concerned at first because we were thinking, okay, look, it needs to be a 1 to 2 year payback. And the client actually, pointed at the payback, and I kind of hung my head initially, and he goes, that's the best payback I've ever seen for these. So, understand when you're looking at that payback period, It's all relative to what has been placed in front of that customer previously when they've looked at LED lights, if they've looked at them at all. And on the second side on the payback is that if the payback is closer to that 3.5 to 4 to 4.5 year range, then that just means, in all honesty, that just means that the lights aren't on that much. So they're only on, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, as opposed to 7 to 7. There's not much weekend time. Or they're only on their parking lot lights, with the street lights out there. They're only on from dusk to dawn. So all that really means is that, the payback period is going to be a little bit longer, but the lights are going to last that much longer as well. So always keep in mind that, find out what the payback period is, but also, couple that with how those lights are supposed to be lasting, so they can understand, look, we can go the lease route and actually make money off of the lease compared to our savings that we'll be getting on a monthly basis. Or you can just pay them off, and, after 4 years, you're going to be, making all that money and saving all that money off the bottom line for the next 10, 12, 15 years. Scott, I got up your satisfied customers list, and it kind of makes me wonder what's the real sweet spot for this.
Well, there's, again, it really, there's a couple things you want to think about. Two things that, just to keep it simple. First thing is you want to think about hours of use. So now, unless you have reach and unless you have customer possibilities in different areas of the country, I'd add a third. Meaning, in other words, if you have customers in Connecticut and also have customers in Texas, the other factor you want to think about is the power rate. So to give you an example, people pay about 8 cents a kilowatt in Texas, giving you a very rough number, average number, whereas people pay about 18 cents a kilowatt hour in Connecticut. So as you can imagine, if you're paying more, the payback is going to look more attractive because we're going to save more. So if you have various utilities within an area you cover, then certainly take a look at that and say, who's more expensive? That would be one sometimes. Assuming you don't, assuming you work in Indianapolis or whatever the town may be, assuming you work in one spot and it's really one utility, then what you want to look at is hours of use. So is it an office that is open on weekends? Is it a factory or a warehouse that runs 2 shifts? So, or even 3 shifts? Is it 24-hour? So anywhere that's running lights for, the longer the period of time, the better. Now, that doesn't mean it can't work at a regular, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's just, if you're going to prioritize, look at those longer running hours. And then the last thing is obviously just the square footage. The more square footage they have, the more lighting they're going to have. And therefore, the more worth your time it is to walk in there and take a look at running an assessment. So those are the two, things to start with. The third optional one, again, is if, in fact, you have some different utilities you can take a look at, then you can call those utilities, and they'll tell you, give me an average commercial rate. You can even just say, hey, I'm looking at opening a business, and what am I going to pay? They'll give you, and there'll probably some kind of report they have to give you. They'll just tell you on the phone what are the rates. And so you may find some differences, and then you obviously want to focus on the area in which the kilowatt rate is higher. It's more costly for power.
Okay, do we have any questions out there? All right, Scott, you got any last thoughts before I wrap up?
I'm good.
Okay, hey, I appreciate you taking the time. I do want to kind of go over some of the promotions that we've got going on while we've got everybody on the call. I just want to remind you folks that eSuite Media has their second quarter app promotion, $1,000 up front for every app that's sold from now until the end of the quarter on June 30th. Or if you want to take that $1,000 up front bounty and reduce the design fee from $3,000 down to say like $2,500 and just take $500 for yourself and split that with the client, that choice is up to you. But again, $1,000 for every app, every mobile app that is sold out there, and we're having some tremendous traction with area churches, especially with restaurants, and now we're getting ready to hit another vertical in the realtors market. So if you got some opportunities along those lines, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me or Allie Binkley or anyone else at eSuite. With Comcore, of course, I hope you all know about the promotion they've got going on where you'll bring in $8,000 in new monthly billings by the end of February next year. This is a longer-term promotion. Only $8,000 we're talking about, though, in monthly billings, in new monthly billings, and you'll get an ELIO. And if you haven't seen the ELIO, go out on the site and take a look at it or pull it up, the promotion on your mobile app, and you can do that as well. They're also paying $100 for every ring box. You remember the ring box is that 4-phone solution where you get phones, a wireless router, a high-end wireless router, by the way, too, that does QoS, and all the fixings you need to just plug and play for your client and your small business play, more of the small business SOHO type market. And you can just simply go to town with that $100 up front, as well as the residual commission that you normally get too. PGI has several promotions out there, including a grand prize that says the trip of a lifetime, where you can earn a trip for up to $25,000 that they're going to pay on a trip. But they also have some standard awards and some elite awards out there. That are some gift cards out there that you can get from American Express. And then Rapid Scale also has just a nice little promotion out there as well, which is a $100 gift card for setting up some qualified meetings, and then you can get parlay that into more attempts if those meetings become fruitful. So with that, guys, I just want to say thanks a lot for taking time out of your day. I hope you all are getting geared up for the Masters now. We've got 23 minutes before it comes back on live on CBS or the Golf Channel or wherever it is. But I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I have no problem getting on the phone with you and your customers and your opportunities, and then getting the partners on as well and helping you contact them. And if you haven't downloaded the Derby Agency mobile app, please go out to Google Play and download it to your Android phone, or go out to the iStore or the App Store and get it for your iPhone or your iPad. So with that, I appreciate it, guys. Take care, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks a lot.